By the way, President Biden, he made an address to the nation today at, was it 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon? I watched it. I don't remember. It was 1 or 2 o'clock, sometime early afternoon, about Russia has now invaded the Ukraine. He laid out sanctions against Russia. They're calling it tranches, where they're going to slowly build up more sanctions. Both Europe and the United States right now at this present time are in lockstep, and they are putting sanctions against banks in Russia, against people in politics in Russia, and we'll see if any of that causes Putin to change his mind. They're going to slowly ratchet up the sanctions. The biggest problem the United States has with sanctions is when you sanction Russia, you also sanction yourself. So the more sanctions we give, the more it would hurt us as well, most probably at the gas pump. Russia is responsible for a lot of our energy supplies, especially in Europe, and if the United States takes Russia out of the world financial system, which is what a lot of people want to happen, there will be a shortage of a lot of oil and natural gas for our energy, spiking gas prices at the pump, spiking inflation. So we hurt Russia, but we also hurt ourselves as well. At the moment, the United States, one thing that Putin was not counting on was that the United States and Europe would be lockstep in agreement on trying to stop Russia from invading Ukraine. President Biden has already put troops in Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Poland, Romania. Additional troops are going. Those are all members of NATO. He said that he intends not to invade Russia. He doesn't want to fight Russia. But should Russia invade any of those countries, then the United States will defend all of those countries, and then now we are at war with Russia. It goes back to what scares me about all of this is a couple things. Why we should be worried. A, no, the world does not need the United States and Russia going to war against each other. That's number one. When you have the two biggest nuclear superpowers having war against each other.
Don't want that.
Okay. Number two, you can't have a situation in this day and age where a country decides to go on an offensive and just take over other countries because they want to, because they decide that they have a right to do it. So at some point, the world has to stand up to them. And if, for example, the world does not stand up to Putin and Russia and allows Ukraine to be overridden, and Ukraine ends up becoming part of Russia, and they overthrow a country, democratically elected government, and now Russia controls Ukraine, who's to say China won't do the same thing with Taiwan? Taiwan, a democratically elected island off of China, mostly Chinese inhabitants. China says Taiwan's part of China, just like Russia says Ukraine's part of Russia.
Or parts of Ukraine, right?
No, they say
Are
all
they
of
saying
Ukraine.
all of Ukraine?
Oh, yeah, he's saying all of Ukraine.
Okay.
You know, the other thing is this, and I said this before, which is the scariest thing of everything. History repeats itself all the time. Okay, you want to know what's going to happen? Go back and look at history. Okay, World War II. We talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. Germany, Hitler said Austria. In Austria, they speak German. Austria should be part of Germany. We speak the same language. We have the same history. We have the same culture. They should not be a separate country. Hitler took over Austria using the same logic that Putin is taking over Ukraine. And when Hitler took over Austria, right before World War II started, Great Britain and France, they were objecting to all of this. They said you shouldn't do this. Hitler was concerned that Great Britain and France would go to war against them. So what did Hitler do? And we talked about this yesterday. Hitler said the only way Germany would win this war, because Great Britain and France are stronger armies at the time, the only way that Germany would win is to hit first. So as soon as they felt threatened by the UK and France, and eventually the United States joined, as soon as they felt threatened, they said, we're going to attack first. Who's to say now Putin goes into Ukraine, feels threatened by the United States, who is now putting in military in Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, all these countries that border Russia. Who's to say Russia would say, you know what, I better attack first before they attack me?
Right.
That's what scares me. That's how World War II started.
Yeah.
Biden's description of a Russian invasion in Ukraine immediately ups the stakes for Putin's response. Biden said Russia went into Ukraine. They have invaded Ukraine. Putin says he's just sent in some peacekeepers. Biden is reserving some of his other toughest measures, hoping to see if Putin wages a sustained attack. We will find this all out shortly. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was supposed to meet with his counterpart in Russia on Thursday to try to come up with some diplomatic solution to this. Blinken has now called off that meeting with his counterpart in Russia. He says that the United States will not now meet with Russia since they have now invaded Ukraine. They will not give Russia the olive branch or of saying we're going to negotiate while they are invading another country. You want to negotiate with the United States, stop your invasion, retreat, then we can negotiate. So right now, the United States is not going to negotiate with Russia. I will tell you this. Putin is gambling. And this is the gamble that he's making. He's gambling if he's going to overtake the Ukraine, that he can do it very quickly.
Right.
Kind of like how Germany overtook Poland in World War II in 2 weeks. If Russia's able to do it, then I think Putin will get away with it, because the United States is not going to stop him. I don't know what happens after that. If Ukraine, by the way, which is considered, Russia's considered, based on statistics, I read a statistic, Russia's the #2 best military in the world, behind the United States, which is #1. Ukraine was listed at 21st best. So it's #2 versus 21. That's what it is right now.
Right.
But the United States is giving Ukraine a lot of defensive weapons. If Russian soldiers start going back to Russia in body bags, and the United States and Europe actually cripple the Russian economy. You know how they mostly do it? They take them out of the SWIFT. You know, when you ever send a wire transfer to Europe and you have to use a SWIFT code?
Yeah.
They take Russia out of that SWIFT code, and now Russia will not be able to transact any international business.
So hit them where the money hurt.
You hurt them with their money, and if the Ukrainians are able to give a fight in a war, using advanced U.S. military equipment, which the United States gave them, and Russian soldiers start going back to Russia in body bags, and the Russian economy is crippled, and what will also happen is people won't be able to leave Russia. So especially the wealthy oligarchs, they like to go to Harrods and shop at London.
Right.
They like to go, to Paris. They like to go to Rome. They like to summer in Europe. They won't be able to leave Russia. And now they're getting crippled economically. They would be getting crippled that they're stuck in Russia. And you have soldiers returning in body bags. It becomes a longer, bloodier war. And a lot of people end up dying. 10, 30, 40, 50,000, maybe 100,000 people dying. You know, it's not going to, and it's all from Putin.
Right.
That's how Russia loses. But it's going to be a very, very bloody loss if that's what happens. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.